Have you ever seen the Eiffel Tower? In films, photographs, postcards, t-shirts, notebook covers, she's perhaps the most recognized monument in the world, a symbol of Paris, of France, of love, of art, of history. But what almost no one knows is that this tower almost didn't exist. What's more, even after it was built, it was almost demolished. And even worse, there was one small, almost insignificant technical detail that could have caused the entire tower to collapse. Yes, the Eiffel Tower, the iron giant more than 300 mm high, was saved by a detail, a hidden detail. And this is what you will find out now. To understand what really happened, we need to go back to the end of the 19th century. We are in Paris, the year is 1884. France prepares for the 1889 Universal Exposition, a celebration to mark the centenary of the French Revolution. The intention was to show the world how modern, innovative and ahead of its time the country was. And then came an engineer named Gustave Eiffel with a bold proposal to build the tallest structure in the world, a tower made entirely of iron. Standing more than 300 mm high in the heart of the city, the idea was, in the eyes of many, absurd. It didn't take long for the reaction of the Parisian elite to begin. Artists, writers, architects, all joined forces to stop that iron freak. In 1887, a group of 300 intellectuals, including such names as Alexandre Dumasson and Guy de Maupassant, they signed a letter of protest. They called the future tower a monstrosity, a dull skeleton, a humiliation to French aesthetics. And you know the most curious thing? The tower was only approved by one vote difference in the City Hall committee. Yes, one single vote, one detail. But Eiffel did not give up. He believed in the project, staked his reputation, his money and his resources. And construction began. Now imagine this. Over 18,000 pieces of wrought iron, all different from each other, 2,000 rivets, over 7,000 tons of metal structure being assembled with mathematical precision. How was all this done manually? The rivets were heated to 800 degrees C. Then they were hammered, still glowing, by teams of workers hanging from improvised scaffolding dozens of meters high without any safety equipment. The conditions were so dangerous that many workers ended up dying during the construction, but official records do not reveal how many. The construction lasted just over 2 years, and on March 31, 1889, the Eiffel Tower was inaugurated. Gustave Eiffel climbed the 1,710 steps to the top and planted the French flag. But even with the inauguration, the protests continued. The elite still hated the tower. Some said it cast a long cold shadow over the gardens of Paris. Others claimed that the sound of wind against iron was unbearable. But there was something more serious, the fear that the structure would not be safe. Can you imagine a construction of more than 300 millibase made entirely of iron, resisting winds, rain, temperature changes and weather? In the early years, engineers noticed that the tower swayed violently on windy days. Eiffel tried to explain that it was normal, that the project foresaw this, but many people didn't believe it. There were rumors of cracks, of misplaced screws, of miscalculations. Any small mistake could be fatal, a rivet out of place, a badly installed piece, and everything would collapse like a house of cards. This is where the hidden detail comes in. But calm down, we already get there, because before that we need to talk about something else that almost no one knows. Was the Eiffel Tower built with an expiration date? Yes. The permission for its existence was only 20 years. The contract signed with the City Hall said that in 1909 it should be dismantled. Gustave and Eiffel himself knew this, and the Parisian elite were eagerly waiting for this moment. For years there was pressure for the tower to be destroyed. Demolition projects were made, Architectural alternatives were presented, but then something changed.
While the politicians were arguing, Gustav Eiffel did something genius. He began to transform his tower into a scientific instrument. He set up laboratories to study the wind, test antennas, and analyze radiation. Most importantly, he offered the tower to the government as a base for military communications. Remember, if we are entering the 20th century, radio was beginning to develop, and Eiffel had a revolutionary idea. Instead of leaving the tower and turning to dust, he turned it into a giant radio antenna. And then came the First World War. The Eiffel Tower intercepts enemy messages. She identified troop movements, picked up coded signals, and even helped arrest German spies. Thanks to this, the French government changed its mind. The tower became strategic and no one dared touch it anymore. But back to the hidden detail. One of the tower's greatest dangers lay in something almost invisible, the rivets. During construction, many rivets were put in hastily, some were loose. Over time, the wind and vibration of the structure forced them out of place. There are records that in the early years, several screws and rivets began to come loose, especially at the base of the tower. The risk was enormous if an important piece came loose.
All the tension in the structure would change direction. It was enough to cause a chain collapse, but no one could officially admit it. So engineers worked discreetly during the early hours of the morning, doing secret maintenance. This is the hidden detail, a secret kept for years. The Eiffel Tower was more fragile than it looked, and only survived because there was a team that kept it quiet. And he acted behind the scenes. Today the tower is visited by more than 7 million people a year. She's an icon, a national pride. But all this only exists because of a difference vote in the original commission, a military antenna in a time of war, and hastily cramped verses in the middle of the night. Now think with me, when you look at the Eiffel Tower today, what do you see?
Maybe beauty, greatness, art. But now you know that behind all that beauty lies an almost forgotten story, a story of rejection, risk, and behind the scenes decisions, because sometimes it's a simple detail that changes everything.